Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. Oh my God, this episode is so good. We're talking to comedian Katie Hannigan, who is hilarious and fun. And I literally just did a show with her last night. And oh man, are you in for a good time? We're talking about birth control side effects. And specifically what Katie's were. And she had some of the side effects that I never even knew were a thing. And we did a bunch of polls on the Instagram this week. And you guys wrote in with all of your different side effects. And it is mind blowing. But this episode is really good and you're going to love it. And I know some of you were like, yeah, we actually changed birth control after the last episode that we did with Dr. Jolene Brighton. So if you want to hear a more medical perspective, you can go back and listen to that one too. But this is Katie's personal journey and I'm really glad that she shared it with us. And thank you guys for sharing your journeys with us because I'll read some of your symptoms that she didn't have in the Marvel section. You guys, the DC dates are fast approaching. It's not DC. Northern Virginia, Arlington Draft House, but DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia areas, come on out. Seriously, the tickets, they are selling, but they are not selling enough. Okay. And I need you. And I sometimes want to get comedy and this is not a threat. I'm not going to do it. But what if I do? And this is the last time that you ever get the chance to see me, come. It will be so fun. And Chanel Ali will be opening and she is another fantastic comedian. Even if you don't like comedy and you just want to meet us and say hi and tell me about your first time coming story, come to the show. I might give out sex toys. Ben's in Portland right now and I have a whole box of toys that I never gave to anybody and might bring them to the show if he brings them back. So April 22nd and 23rd, Friday and Saturday, 9 p.m. The link is down below. I need you guys there. I really do. Share it. I made a great little thing. You go to my profile on Instagram, Remy Casimir. Just share the post that I made. I even got a countdown so it can remind you if you forget things like me. Tell all your friends. Go find companions in the Facebook group or on the Discord to go with and link up and become friends. Ooh, that would be so cute and fun. I've heard other podcasts listeners do that and I would love that for hours. Yeah, April 22nd and 23rd, 9 p.m. shows. Link is below. Come. Oh my God. It would just mean a lot to me. And those who already are coming, I can't wait to see you there. If you can't come to DC, sign up for my mailing list on remycasimir.com or our mailing list at howcomepodcast.com. And we'll try to only send you dates that apply to you that are in your area. We'll do it via zip code and can't wait to see you. We actually interviewed a companion who's going to be at the show because she had a congrats because of the podcast and it's so good. If you want to see it before I put it out next week, patreon.com/howcome. Also, if you want more from this episode, there is a lot of hilarious stuff that we cut out. So watch the full version on patreon.com/howcome. Full video, unedited everything. Also, Robin and I do a 30-minute post-coitus. I'm talking about Louis C.K. winning a Grammy, this new show on Netflix that I'm obsessed with called Old Enough, where little Japanese toddlers ages 2 to 5 do their first errands. And they are more skilled at doing errands than I am at 32. It's so cute. It's so wild. But it also has social implications. And we talk about that in the post-coitus. And there's more Bridgerton talk. There's a lot of Bridgerton talk on this episode. Spoiler alert. The second we start talking about Bridgerton, if you haven't seen it yet, just, I guess, skip a few minutes. Because I don't want to spoil anything. But also, I like a spoiler sometimes. Okay, so after I binged Bridgerton these last 2 weeks, which is why it's been a little while since the last episode. Also, Robin's had COVID, which is another thing that we talk about in the post-coitus. But so I've been binging the 2 seasons of Bridgerton, and then I missed the time period and how they speak. And then I started watching The Great on Hulu, which is so good. And it's about Catherine the Great's rise to power. And it's historical, but it's also very wrong too. They say it's not completely accurate, but I like to look up the actual history versus the show and whatever. That's kind of a spoiler, but it's fun because then what you're going to get. Like some movies I can't even enjoy until I've seen them once. Like Bridesmaids, I had too much anxiety because I didn't know how it was going to turn out. Now I know how it turns out. I'm like, okay, I can just like enjoy the ride. I don't know if that is relatable to any of you. I'm sure it is. I feel like it's an anxiety or ADHD thing. But anyway, we're not talking about either of those things on this episode. We are talking about birth control, side effects, and specifically Katie Hannigan's. And you guys are just going to love her. She's fantastic. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode. And keep sending us your experiences with birth control because they run the gamut.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Today we have Katie Hannigan, and she is so very interesting and so very funny and so very cool. And I'm just delighted to have her here.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming.
I am very interested in this thing that we spoke about the other day that you had gone through because a current conversation right now is birth control. And there's like a new male birth control coming out, and there's a lot of side effects allegedly, and they look like the ones that I've known that we have had for a really long time. And you brought up one the other day that you went through that I would just love. We haven't even, I think, really spoken about on this podcast. So can you tell me about like your journey with birth control and kind of what's been going on?
Absolutely. I mean, I have been on multiple birth control journeys because I was the type of girl, like when I started having sex in high school, my mom was like, time to get on birth control. Because my mom was like a little paranoid of
We love that type of mom.
Yeah, she was a nurse.
Mine too.
Yeah, she worked in like a clinic and she dealt with a lot of teen pregnancy. So she was like, we're not going down that route.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So I got on birth control. I didn't end up getting on it in high school because I think I just had sex like 2 times. And then I was like, I just had the fear of God in me from being Catholic that I was like, I need to keep my number low.
I love the idea of a low number for Jesus.
I know.
No, it's just
not one, but I got to keep it low. I got to keep it low. Under 8 for the Lord.
Yeah, it's like at the times of MySpace. Like you can have a top 8, nothing else.
Nothing else. You can't go double digits. That's where you go to hell.
That's the 9th circle of hell.
Yes, hoe circle.
Was your mom supportive in that way when she found out you were having sex, or like shamey at all?
You know, it's so funny. I remember my aunt. My aunt is in between my mom's age and mine. So she's like much closer to my age. She's like my mom's half sister. So she was like, I told her about it. I was like, she was like, well, you should tell your mom. I think she would be really supportive. I think she was just telling me to tell my mom just to like keep an eye on it. She was like, oh, I told your mom when I had sex and she was just so supportive, you know? And so I told my mom and my mom immediately started crying.
Oh no.
And was just like so upset. I was 16. I guess like now you think like, oh, that's young. At 16, I was like, I went to like kind of a hoe school. So I was like,
yeah, I was the last virgin standing at 16.
Yes, me too. So I was like, man, I got to get rid of this. I'm getting like judged, called like a baby.
Quote unquote virgin. It's not real, everybody.
It's not real.
Robin's giving me the eye. I have to include that.
Disclaimer. So I got on it in college, and then I was on it like every time I would get a new boyfriend, I would just get on. I would just be like, okay, as a woman in my 20s, I was always like very kind of just sexually nervous. Like I don't want to deal with an unwanted pregnancy. I feel like I've heard so many horror stories of friends. Like I had a girlfriend who had an ectopic pregnancy, and like
I had somebody who just had a scare.
So it's horrific what happens to you. Yeah. And so I would just get on birth control. I was on the Nuvo ring. That was like one of my big ones in my 20s. It made me into a psychotic. I mean, when I say like, I really was in psychosis, I think, where I was like lashing out at family. It caused, one time I was on it, it caused my relationship to end. I was just like, I don't want to deal with you. Yeah. I was dating a guy. I got on, you know how guys are sometimes too, where they'll be like, oh, you don't need to get on birth control. Like, don't do it for me. But then they always are like, oh, let's just do it.
They don't want to wear a condom.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this for me, I guess, because, but you know, still at least put up with it. But I was just so out of it that I would like lash out at him. And we had kind of a toxic relationship anyway. But at that point, I was like, it was like the final straw where I was like, I'm basically am doing this for him, even though I'm doing it for myself, but it's causing me to feel so awful. I didn't even make it through like the month. It was like I started it and our relationship was over in 3 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But maybe the NuvaRing knew something that maybe it knew.
I feel like
it was too toxic for you.
Exactly. Yes. I feel like it just hastened the demise of the relationship where it's like, you know what? So in that way, I do recommend it, you know?
It will make you your worst self. And sometimes she will do something for your better self. That is good.
Yes. Well, I know women were so taught to be like, I'm nice. Oh, it's okay. Like he didn't mean to do that. Like, especially in relationships, you know, it's like, be understanding of your partner. Meanwhile, he's like, sorry, I canceled last minute. You're like, it's okay.
It's okay. Your feelings are so important.
Yeah. But on the NuvaRing, I was like, and another thing.
Yeah. When you were saying your symptoms, I was like, oh, it turned you into me?
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. I was just like aggressive. And
did you ever have a pull-out moment with the NuvaRing? Like, did it ever fall out?
Did it ever
sex?
pop out? Yes.
Yeah.
It would just be like, wait. I would just feel it. I'd be like, something weird happens.
Yeah. This guy was fingering me in college and pulled mine out.
Oh my God, fishing.
And I was like, oh no. Get that back.
Yes, that's the thing about the NuvaRing, because it's like it teaches you that your vagina is a pocket that you have on your body, and you could just be keeping
things in there.
Just keep something in there. Why not?
Yes. Okay, so then how quickly did you get off the NuvaRing?
That time, I was on it one time for about a year, and then my relationship just kind of like naturally crumbled. And then the second time, when it caused me to basically demand that I be treated better, I was not even on it the entire month. They push the NuvaRing on you because I get why they do this, because you don't have to remember to take it at the same time every day. But it's like my emotional reaction to it was so strong. I mean, like, and this was also when Trump got elected. So it was like it was like so much stuff happening. Yeah.
Yeah. That's too much.
It's too much. It was too stressful. I was like, maybe if I had been in like a time in my life where I was just like chilled out all the time and not like trying to do comedy, trying to have a job, like trying to hold my relationship down. It's like, it's too much. It's too much.
Then you could let the NuvaRing destroy you, but
yeah, in a fun way, you know?
In a fun way. Did you ever do daily pills?
Yes. Yeah. Those are I'm on that now, actually. So that was my next journey into birth control. So I started out in my current relationship. We had been together about like a year and a half, I think. And I was kind of like putting it off. But, you know, at a certain point in your relationship, you're just like, I don't know, like, are we going to just keep using condoms? Like, nobody wants to do that. Like, it's not fun. You know, it just feels like
expensive.
It's expensive. I just don't like, I was getting like UTIs too. And I was like, I think the condoms are not good for like the friction is bad. So I was like, I'm just going to get on. I got on Junelle, which I had a girlfriend on it. She was like, oh, it's fine. I was terrified to get those same symptoms again. I was like, oh my God, if I'm just like spiraling, you know, just especially like doing comedy, it's like you kind of have to be like at least like well rested and not like lashing out at people you work with. So I got on Junelle and it was like, it seemed fine. I was like, oh, I guess I just didn't get any side effects. But then like months later, I started getting like really bad side effects, but I couldn't like really link it back to the birth control. I was just like, I guess I just get sores in my mouth now. 35. I was getting canker sores deep inside my mouth, like back here.
Yeah, that's not a thing at 35. That's not a thing ever. I don't think.
I know. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's from a vitamin deficiency. It just leaches vitamins from your body. Now, this was the combo pills. So it's like the estrogen is like, I think what is really hard on your body. It like leaches the vitamins. So you end up getting like all these different things. Like I was telling my friends, I'm like, I guess I can't have wine anymore because every time I have wine, I just have one glass and I get a splitting headache. Like, is that weird? You know?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it was like I had my electrolytes. I couldn't like because when you go on the side effects of birth control, and I have like a bit about this, like they list like the main side effects. It's like bloating, mood swings, maybe you'll get a little depressed, maybe your sex drive will go like down, but it's not like caffeine stays in your body for twice as long. So meanwhile, I'm like drinking my normal amount of coffee and I'm like spiraling,
Yeah. Oh my God.
Or like intense vitamin deficiencies, or like your body like can't hold on to like electrolytes. Like now
there's not enough room for all of those disclaimers. It's like, here's the first 5 really bad ones.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, I guess you'll just figure out because it's happening to you.
I know. I'm like an internet sleuth, like for myself. I'm like, crusty eyes. Is that birth control side effect?
God.
So, but I mean, the main one, which I find this so like just indicative of the fact that like we don't truly live in an equal society. People like say that we do, and like women can do everything and men do, and women can like go to the moon, but it's like
they'll send you there with 100 tampons.
Yeah, exactly. I completely lost my sex drive, and that's like a known top side effect of birth control. And it's like, that's what they would do, like chemical castration. Like that's what they would do to like gay men in the 40s in England, like as a horrific, like cruel and unusual punishment. And like to women, it's like, well, that's just what
deal
happens.
With it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's this like idea that it's not so important to us anyway.
Yeah.
Like if you're a female bodied person, it's like, well, no, the sex isn't for you.
Yes.
Anyway, we've all been taught that it's for the big men with the penises and they love it. And we just like sit there and endure it. And it's like, no, we actually like really like our sexuality, and we like love being horny and like jacking off. And like
it.
Sometimes it has nothing to do with another person. So like that being taken away is like horrible.
It's horrible.
Like, and everything that we know about how scientifically beneficial orgasms are.
Yes.
To like release and like happiness. Like, so on top of making you like have mood swings and feel weird, it's also not letting you do the thing that's going to self-soothe.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like you're just supposed to be your worst self and still operate at a normal level.
Yeah. And you're like, everything's fine. I'm a woman working through
everything.
it.
Yeah.
Doing the laundry. Yeah. I think it should be treated like what it is for men. I think like it's just totally not like for men to be like, they will call like chemical castration. Like we call it like a side effect, like a known big side effect.
Yeah.
And this, it should be like treated as that. Like this is a horrible thing, and it shouldn't just be like, well, like if that was one of the side effects for men, like they wouldn't even put it on the market. They'd be like, this is crap.
No, and I think it has to do, well, I guess the idea is birth control. So it's like, well, you're not going to be having a baby anyway, and like that's what your body's for. So like, why would you need to be horny?
Right. Yeah, it's like, I guess it works that I didn't have a baby. But
right. No, but I'm saying like my like little brain that still needs to unlearn things. It's like, okay, well, yeah, no, that does work. And it's like, no, it's going to make people feel really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so annoying. And it's so like insidious too, because right when I noticed my sex drive, like taking a nosedive was the pandemic. It was like that. You remember that like terrible time, like March 2020. And I
like
just
lockdown.
It was like lockdown. So I wasn't sure, like, is this the birth control or like, am I scared? I was like drinking a lot, eating a lot. I was like kind of a mess emotionally, like everybody was. And my boyfriend was like, do we not have sex now? Like, what's going on? Like, we used to have like, this like incredible sex. And I was like, I'm stressed. Oh no. Like he tried to like talk to me about it. And I felt so defensive where I was like, oh, you hate that feeling where it's just like, I'm just not really in the mood. And I could kind of like get there, you know, I was like, okay, I can get there. But it was like glass of wine, snuggling, movie, a deep conversation. You know, it was just like, it wasn't like before where my boyfriend would kiss me and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm wet. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I think it like probably hurt him, obviously, because he's like, am I doing something wrong? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And you're just like, am I doing, you know, like everybody feels like they're so deficient.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, I guess like your brain just comes up with ideas too. It's like your mind's always like looking for patterns. I'm like, I don't know. Do I not like my boyfriend anymore? Or like, am I just like, you know, am I just like sexually dormant or something? Am I stressed out? And it was like probably about a year of that where I was like, I just kind of like accepted it as my life. And because I was this is the thing too, that's I find like so interesting. Like, you know, now that my body is back to normal, like if I go for a long time without sex, I'm like, fuck me.
Yeah.
I'm like confronting my boyfriend aggressively, you know, like, cause sometimes like
in the doorways.
Yes. Hey. Like, cause sometimes like we travel, we don't see each other. And I'm like, I'm like, I demand it. But
another comedy couple, you guys.
Comedy couple. I love my boyfriend. He's so sweet and he's very sexy.
He's so sweet.
He is. And sexy.
And funny. And funny. Well, and sexy.
But it's like.
And now say my boyfriend's sexy and
he's
funny.
He's so sexy.
Thank you. And funny?
Yes. I love Benny D. So funny, so sweet, so sexy. So goofy.
Sexy. Yes.
Yes.
So goofy.
But yeah,
But yes.
So my point was, even then, because I was so disinterested in sex, like I wasn't even like missing it. I just was like, well, you know, like I'd rather like do a puzzle. You know, I was like really into puzzles, as you could guess about me. And I was just like, I just didn't even notice that it wasn't there. And that was like a year of my life, a year of my pandemic life. And then I did have like a little bit.
And it's easy to assume that it's just pandemic. Because like, you're like, I've never gone through something like this. Maybe this is my reaction.
Yeah. And I didn't have that when I was on the Nuvo ring, I remember. And I did not have it when I was on birth control, when I was in college. I was on a like tricyclic one where it's like gets more hormones. I didn't have it then. That one I couldn't get back on because it made me. It's like I was on ortho tricyclic low. It's a pill and it's got 3 phases. So it's like 1 week you take one dose, the next week's a stronger dose, 3rd week. And I would get every day that the dose increased, I would just like throw up. That's a fun side effect where I'm like, yeah, I can't go back to that.
Yeah. Anybody who like has been talking about the male birth control pill, they're like listing the side effects. And I'm like, yeah,
we know. We know. Hun. So funny. But then I finally was like, I have to do something, because it was like right when I was like getting the mouth sores, I was getting headaches. I not to mention I was also taking like I'm taking like serious multivitamins. I'm taking like women's like probiotics. So I'm spending like $80 a month for the side effects of my birth control. I'm having like eye drops, you know, my eyes are dry, all this stuff. So I talked to the gyno finally, and she was like,
so it gets more expensive than the condoms.
Yeah. It's like, all those little special lady accoutrements. But I talked to the person that I went in. I go to Women's Walk-In Gyne. It's a great place if you need one. But I was just like, I feel like, and actually it wasn't even like not having sex. It was like getting a headache after having wine, that I was like, I have to do something. That's like what put me over the edge.
Yeah.
I was telling her all the symptoms. I'm like just telling her everything. And she was like, oh, let's switch. Like, obviously you should have come in here months and months ago. I mean, it was during the pandemic, so I wasn't really like in a great place that I could. But I switched. Now I'm on the mini pill, which is, first of all, it's the one that you like easily get pregnant on. So I'm like, whatever, I'm 35. If I have a baby, if I get pregnant, I'm like, let's fucking go for it. You know?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that little baby at all.
Takes the pressure off, right? You're like, should I have a baby? Should I not? It's like, well, your body decided.
Yeah.
So I'm on that one now. So I will say the combination one is estrogen and progesterone, and that makes you not ovulate. So it really does do like a number on your body to like completely cut off ovulation. The progesterone only, first of all, you have to take it within the same 3-hour window every single day. Like you cannot fuck around. But I'm like, I honestly, like, I fuck around with it a little tiny bit, but I always am careful.
Katie, you cannot fuck around.
I fuck around a tiny bit. I'm like, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Fuck around and find out.
I know. I almost always remember to take it, but I was like, taking a pill, like, that's so much easier than like the IUD, like a surgery. Like, I'll take a pill, please. I will take a pill, like, and having like my Nuva ring like pop out. But this one, the progesterone makes you not get pregnant. I do
like my IUD. I just have to give IUD representation.
Do you really?
Wonderful.
What do you have, a Mirena? A Mirena?
No, I have the little copper guy because I can't handle the extra hormones. So it's just...
How was the insertion for you?
Horrible. Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah,
it was horrible. Painful. I wore a diaper for a month. I was bleeding so much. I'm a hero.
You are, war veteran practically.
Mm-hmm.
See, I hear that. I'm like, I'll take a pill. I'll take a pill.
Yeah.
I'll take it
I know somebody who recently, even though they're very, very rare, had an IUD pregnancy.
Really? And the baby comes out holding it like, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't go through with it, but like, it happens. Yeah.
I heard a girl who she had the IUD, she had it inserted, was having like extreme pain from it, then had to get it taken back out, and it was inserted improperly. I'm like, I'm not a surgery person. I've never gotten Botox. I'm like, I just can't. I'm like, whatever, I'll take a pill. And so I am on the progesterone, which it makes you not get pregnant by, this is like so funny to me. It just like thickens your cervical mucus so the sperm can't get through to the egg. It's like, okay. I guess that's, it seems insane that would even work, but you're like, okay, I guess my mucus is like super thick.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can't get through this. So I guess we'll just chill here and die.
Yeah, I'm good. But we also like, now we're like, okay, well, let's just pull out. Unless it's like a holiday, you know? And so that's what I'm
Very
on now.
Bridgerton season 1.
Yes. We keep it in on Christmas, as the Lord wants. And, but yeah, this time has been so much. I can't tell you I didn't notice an immediate shift. It took me like a month where I was like, oh my God, my body's healing. My body is fucking healing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was just like looking at my boyfriend, like, I want to fuck him, you know, like feeling sexy all of a sudden. Or like, I remember,
and he's like little me.
Yeah. He's like, do we have sex again? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So it was so awesome. Like I could feel myself. It was kind of like, I remember feeling this when I went through puberty, where all of a sudden you're like, am I a slut? You know, you're just out and you're like, okay. Like I was at Trader Joe's and like, you know, they're always like chatting you up like, oh, it's a great backpack. I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah. Are you smelling these pheromones?
Yeah. Like, excuse me, sir. And because I used to be like such a horny girl before. I was like such a horny girl, especially when I would have like, you know, you have like, sometimes I would be like a little sexually dormant if I was like focused on something, like running around to do something. But like when I would be like in my single era, you know, every time I'd be like, I'm on Tinder again, I would just feel like so sexy. So I started feeling like I started getting turned on again. I was so like, I felt sexy again, which I started feeling like, and you don't want to feel like this in your 30s where I'm like, I already wear glasses. I already have like a like vibe, you know, like I can't be like frigid now, like on top of everything. Like I need to fuck. So I started feeling like, oh my God, like still got it. And it was just so great for me.
And you do in so many ways, and the glasses are working.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's nice to feel hot.
It's,
you know, like,
yes,
for yourself.
You need the testosterone. I think that's what it is. Like when you get estrogen, it just pushes down the testosterone, and that's like the thing that makes you horny.
I wonder what's in the male birth control pill then. Like,
I do too. I wonder.
Synthetic progesterone.
Oh, really?
And an implant. They use testosterone to they give them testosterone to counter the effects of giving them those hormones.
God, that sounds awful. Yeah, any hormone therapy.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Any hormone therapy. I mean, my heart like really goes out to people that are, like doing different things with like their sexual identity, going through like transitioning. It's like, that is a huge change in your body and those have side effects too. And it sucks. And it's like a lot.
It's a lot, but then a lot of the side effects are becoming themselves and becoming sexy.
Yes. And becoming sexy is worth it.
Yeah. I feel like the only way you can really guarantee not getting pregnant without birth control and without side effects and stuff is just banging somebody with the same gens or masturbating.
Yeah.
Like otherwise somebody's going to be having to bear the brunt of these side effects. And like, I am very excited to spread out the workload. And I do know that there are a lot of people like cis guys and
anybody who has a penis, they can also help now. They can help now. And I think it's the thing that's really nice about it too, socially, is like putting it back on that person who has a penis, where it's like, it's always been the responsibility of the woman to not get pregnant and to protect her own body. And
it's like, if you have the womb, protect the womb.
Protect the womb, protect.
Even though the womb can only make one baby.
Yeah.
Whereas the penises can make so many babies every day. And with every emission.
Yeah. Just stop it already. I have heard,
quit it.
I have heard that's why it was easier to do female birth control, because it's like you only have to worry about not ovulating the one egg.
But
I think this is like it's like you have to worry about any like tiny sperm that gets through. It's like, well, he's gonna be a swimmer. He is gonna be strong.
It's a constant battle.
Yeah.
Every time new troops come, you gotta shoot them down.
Yeah. I just think too about like when I was doing my, I did like tons and tons of birth control research when I was on it, just to like kind of understand what I was going through. Like when they first started using birth control, and remember in like Mad Men, they have it in the first season. And I'm blanking out on that woman's name. I love this actress, Elizabeth Moss. Elizabeth Moss. Yeah. In the 50s, when girls would get on birth control, now they have it. And I remember I was so upset when I was getting on birth control, because I really wanted to get on they have a microdose birth control. It's not covered by any insurance, but it's supposed to be like the lowest dose you can absolutely get. It is a combination, so it's like a little safer. And they just have it down to a fine science but it's not covered by any insurance. And it's like $150 a month. I was so mad. I was like
lower estrin.
Low estrin. Yeah.
Low estrin.
Yeah. But like when these girls were getting on it in the 50s, they were like, they had no idea what the dosage were. They were overdosing them to such an extreme that now people are on like 1/10 of what they were getting. I could be like butchering that. I don't know the exact ratio and the numbers, so I'm not a doctor, but like the amount that we give now of birth control is so much lower than what they were just like giving people in the 50s. It's like, oh my God, I cannot imagine what that would have been like. Or even like the 70s, I think is when it started becoming like more mainstream. But it's like, you think you're having like side effects now, like mouth sores, headache, low sex drive, like psychosis. It's like, imagine that like times 5.
Times 10. That's insane.
So insane.
Yeah. I mean, and women weren't really highly thought of then either. I mean, I think there was like that whole thing about hysteria. It was just like, she's crazy. And it's like, no, she's not getting fucked. And she's like on so many pills that she doesn't know who she is.
Yeah. They're like, let's lobotomize her. We've done all we can. So
she's already had the children. We don't need her anymore.
Yeah. Goodbye. Ugh. It makes me so mad, but anyway, my birth control story had a happy ending because now I'm on it I would not have gotten on this birth control in my 20s probably, because this is like the one that it's like you really can't get pregnant on it. And like, well, I'm doing my best, but I'm also like, again, I'm like, I'm going to be 36 in like 3 months. Like if I have a baby, like whatever, at this point, whatever, I'll be happy.
Robin, will you read that to me? Robin just put in a little info.
The first brand of birth control was Inovid, and it had a lot more hormones than it needed. It contained 10,000 micrograms of progestin and 150 micrograms of estrogen. In comparison, today's lower dose pills will have 50 to 150 micrograms of progestin and 20 to 50 micrograms of estrogen.
Oh my God.
So it's quite a bit of a difference. And then you can get some low dose pills that have like 10 micrograms of estrogen and everything. So that was just insanely high back then.
I will say when I was on the combo pill and I was getting the estrogen hormones, like, you know how I get like little chin hairs, you know, my little girls, they all like, they went like so wispy. I was like, oh wow. So I think it was like the estrogen, those chin hairs are like little testosterone. No, the estrogen just like smoothed them out. I was like, weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, no, but I'm from this little blurb, like, it's not that, like, I'm grateful that these women went through these trials so that they would know to lower the dosages. And it's kind of very nice for the people with the penises that we've gone through all of these trials for so many years, so that, like, hopefully their trials can go much easier. I know that they still have side effects, but it's a part of it.
It's a part of it. And if you don't want to have kids, then you have to take ownership over that, you know? Yeah.
Hundo P. And we all want to be fucking. We get it.
Do. You need to. Unless you're asexual, and then whatever. You do.
Unless you're asexual, yeah. But like, again, the only thing you can do is bang somebody with the same gens, only mutually masturbate or do oral. Like, pull-out is not guaranteed.
It's only like 18%. It's like
that's how I got prego.
Really? Yeah. I know. It is your boyfriend Italian? I feel like my boyfriend's Italian. I'm like,
he is. Yeah.
Not mess around with these like rocky sperms. They're like very virile.
Yeah, and I think I'm like super fertile as well.
Oh, good for you. Like, that's kind of
exciting.
Nice. I've never had a pregnancy scare, and I think like I was like chalking it up to like, oh, I've been really, really careful. I've been so careful. But part of me is like, can I have kids? Can I have kids? Because could you imagine, like, I love that episode of Sex and the City. I remember it from ages ago when Charlotte finds out she can't have kids, and she's like, oh, I was like so careful my whole 20s, and I could have just been like letting it rip, you know?
I could have been Samantha.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of women, like, they get to, you know, mid to late 30s and they're like, okay, time to have a baby. And then they're like, uh-oh, I can't.
And also, it could have been the birth control that you've been on for such a long time that ends up fucking you up. Like, I was on it 16 to 20 or something.
Oh, wow.
Or no, 6. Yeah. And I was like starting to hear studies about birth control interfering with fertility, like down the line. And I was like, oh, I should just get off this for a little bit. And turns out I'm still fertile for now. But
what birth control were you on, Remy?
I've done a lot of them. I did Yaz for a while.
Yaz is like the PMDD one, right? Where it's like supposed to kind of like help. That is one positive side effect I had from birth control, because I would get like really bad PMS where it wasn't even like angry. I would just like go in like a bad self-hating spiral. And part of it was like I needed to do the work from like therapy and, you know, just healing. But also I think it was really hormonal. And now that I have the consistent dose of hormones, I'm like, it's so much better for me. I don't have like 5 days a month where I'm like, if someone looks at me, I'm going to stab myself. You know, it's like, that's not a good place to be in. But I think I was like, my hormones would just be like in such a fluctuation. And like everyone I know in my family has it, you know?
Yeah, it's tough to tell if it's like, is it my hormones or is this my brain? Do we need to go
and also
to therapy?
Like living in New York City where, you know, it's just like you're walking down the street and someone's like, out of my way. You're like, I'm sorry. I just want a croissant. It's just like constant stress, horns and everything. It's a lot.
It's a lot. But yeah, it would be very cool, I think, if you ended up getting pregnant.
You think
now.
So? Right. I mean, now would be a great timing. The only thing is like losing a couple years from the pandemic with my career where I'm like, I think that's what they say. Like women end up, and again, I hate this, but it's like women end up in their late 30s when they focused on their career and they're like, now's my only time to have a baby. They have the baby. They have to take the step back. And then the guys end up just like moving forward. And it's just like, it's such a bummer. But, you know, maybe my boyfriend would, you know, my husband, hopefully at that point would, you know, maybe he would just be a Manny. Who knows? You never know how things could work out.
Manny.
Yeah.
Somebody brought up in another episode of Explained that it's like the wage gap between cis men and cis women is so large because of the expectancy of women or female-bodied people to take care of children and maternity leave being a thing and paternity leave not being a thing. And this like expectation on, well, it's just going to be on the person that had the baby to step back from their career a little bit and take care of the thing. And it's like, no, if everybody can step back like a tiny and work together, then it wouldn't be like so terrifying for people to like, it shouldn't be like, my career or this child.
Yeah. It shouldn't, you know? It shouldn't be like everything I've worked for, you know, is going to be completely flushed down the drain, or I just never get to like experience motherhood. Yeah. I love that. I love, I've seen that as well about the wage gap and it hitting like right there. In like the late 30s when it's like, well, then the husband just happens to make like a little more money because sometimes women like tend to date like an older guy and then he can't like take the work off. But it just makes me so mad when I hear people like, I hate Jordan Peterson so much. I like hate watching him. I just hate him. I hate him so much, but he's always saying stuff like the wage gap. I love his like random.
He says there is none, but it's because he's in Canada where legally they're supposed to be paid the same. But he's not talking about the rest of the world for that portion.
Well, he claims that the wage gap only exists because men will take more physically demanding and dangerous jobs. And it's like, oh, really, Jordan? Is that why 85% of showrunners are white men? Because it's a dangerous job. Is that it? It's not coal mining. Okay. Like women can do it. So it's just like, his logic is like just ass backward constantly. And I hate that he perpetuates that because it's like.
Also, do you not think birthing a baby is physically demanding and a job?
Yeah. Do you not think that
you could never?
It's like women gravitate towards like careers in the humanities because it's like, what are you talking about?
Or are there only certain positions that women were allowed to do for a long time?
And then he also claims he's analyzing it by like looking at countries that have less social bias, like Denmark, for example, and like the Scandinavian countries where it's like the gender roles are less reinforced. But it's like, yeah, they still had history. So they still had history where I don't think women were like the breadwinners back in the 1800s. Like, I hate to tell you.
I think about Sweden a lot because I went to Stockholm to visit my friend. And when I was there, I went to this museum called the Vasa Museum. And it's like this museum that just has this big, massive boat in it. And the boat, like, this king had built and they didn't do it the right way. So it sunk like 100 meters out. Like they were like, goodbye boat. And then it just like sunk. And so it's perfectly preserved and stuff. And it's a great museum. But they have a whole room at the Vasa Museum that is basically empty. And it says, this room is dedicated to the women of the Vasa because we know that women contributed and we know that they were around, but history was written by men. So we cannot find the findings of that yet, but we will, and we're dedicated. Like, we know that they were there and that they helped.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. But it's like, it's nice to like acknowledge it, or it's like.
And Sweden's one of the most like equal countries now, and liberal and great. But even them are like, this is in our history. Like, we know that it was
acknowledge it.
Uneven for a long time.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you need to be like, men have every advantage and women have nothing. It's like, that's not what we're looking for. Like, just, But I love what you said about like the thing of like, birthing babies is dangerous. It's like literally one of the most dangerous things you can do. It's like
Duke of Hastings' mother died in childbirth. I just watched Bridgerton season 1 and it was heartbreaking. And the dad didn't even care because he was like, now I have a male heir. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even care.
The dad is so mean. I love Bridgerton.
He's so mean.
I was just crying, sobbing the entire time.
I watched season 2 first because I couldn't get into season 1, and then I like loved season 2, and then I went back and I watched season 1, and I think that's the way to do it.
Season 2 was great. It was so like the romance was just perfect, and it hit every facet of like the forbidden love. I was like, I need to break up with my boyfriend so I can get back together with him.
Literally.
And then you just like plan to meet at a bar and you're like, do I know you? Love it.
My thing about Bridgerton too, we need to do like a Bridgerton episode, but I think it's so funny how ass backwards it is with like the women know nothing about sex. They're not allowed to know anything about sex.
Yeah.
But also when the men eventually fuck them, they eat them out all the time.
Yes, it's very tawdry.
What? Like, the fucking Duke teaches her how to masturbate.
Yeah.
Like, no one ever told me to do. Actually, Robin, didn't some kid tell? That was your first time coming, right? Was some guy told you to masturbate?
Yeah.
You're Bridgerton.
He was like, why don't you try this? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, so I love that. I had a boyfriend insist that I do that too, because he was like, I'm not gonna like just be touching you for the first time. It's gross. And I was like, I was young. I was like 14 or 15. So you're like, okay, yeah, go for it. Inspiration. Thank you, Shane.
Wait, he said, I'm not touching you for the first time. It's gross.
Yeah, he just meant like it's not sexual then. Like if you haven't explored on your own. It feels like kind of like
Bridgerton.
Yeah.
And he's like, I shouldn't teach you your body. Like, you should know your body.
Should know your own body. And I don't want it to be like, I'm like your older cousin that's just like, showing you everything. It's like, I don't know why I brought cousin into it. But
why is that?
He did not say that. Not say that. But
it's because we're talking about Bridgerton and everybody marries their cousins.
There's a lot of intermarriage. I love Bridgerton. Yeah. I love everything about it. I mean, I love everything that Shonda does.
Initially, I didn't want to watch it because I didn't like that they were making old versions of new songs.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, I love it.
But now it's my favorite part.
Oh, I love it. Because I feel like it recreates a feeling like that's what that music would have sounded like to them.
Felt like to them.
Yeah, you're like, exactly. Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
Miley. Like, I love it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same if it was like a Gregorian chant. You'd be like, it doesn't really have the gravitas.
Yeah. Because when I hear like classical music, I'm like, ugh, it's so like... it's
not horny.
It's not horny at all. But when I hear like, they had that like Wrecking Ball song. I remember in one of them, I was just like, oh my God, it's getting me. It is getting me there.
And the
so horny.
So horny.
I love it. I know.
I love it.
I watched that show. And I also have watched like several other. I'm big into period pieces, and then I'm always like, my boyfriend, he'll watch it if he's like allowed to.
They're called courses. Just kidding.
Yeah. Right. Excuse me. He'll watch it if he's like allowed to like make fun of it. But I love to watch it. And then I love to just like go. I'm like trying to like role play with him where I'm like, oh my God, the Duke.
Literally.
He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, fuck me before tea time.
I literally text Ben. I'm like, would you like to come for luncheon with father tomorrow?
Yes. It's so horny. It's such like a horny time period. And it's like so much like repression too, where it's like, ooh, being proper. But I like Bridgerton. I like more than because it's set in the early 1800s, which is like a less repressed time than the late 1800s. I think paradoxically, because the late 1800s was the Victorian era, and that's when it was like they really stifled so much.
So they must have been like pegging each other behind closed doors.
I think they were. I think they really were. Because Brits.
Everybody was at that painter's hideout.
Oh my God, I love the painter's hideout.
Getting weird.
So debaucherous. Yeah. I feel like that would be me. I always like watch that. I'm like, would I be like the actress in this that's just like doing vaudeville? Like,
yeah. I know. I like start to like regress a lot when I watch it because I'm like, just marry well or whatever. And I'm like, you still won't. What are you doing?
Oh, just marry well. Well, it's really nice that it's like, I love that Gloria Steinem quote that's like, all women can like become the man that they wanted to marry. It's like, yes, that's such a journey of being like, I have the career, I have the money, and now like I don't need anything else, but I just want this person because they do it for me.
And isn't it nice for those people? It's like, we don't need you, we just want you.
Yes, it is.
Isn't that
so
such
nice.
a better feeling?
Yes, coming to a relationship from a place of like stability and not being like, help, I can't pay rent.
I don't have a dowry and I'm pregnant and you have to save my good name.
Yes, Mrs. Featherbottom.
Lord Featherington. I keep calling Whistlebottom, and I'm like, that's her name.
Lady Whistlebottom. I love
Lazy Whistlebottom.
I love the character of Penelope. I adore her. I adore that actress, and her plight is so interesting to me because she's like, I wouldn't even say that she's like not pretty. I think she's like a beautiful person, but she's
pretty.
She's outside of the beauty standards of the time, you know? So it's like people kind of like just walk past her. And I don't want to give it away, but like the last line that Colin says, she overhears, you know, and like the second, it's just so agonizing. And it's like the clock is ticking down for her. And she's kind of like, what is her future as a woman? Like she doesn't have any money in her family. She can't just be like a spinster.
She has money.
Well, she has her own money.
Whistlebottom makes money.
Whistlebottom is a female entrepreneur. Hashtag. That's my hashtag I use on Instagram. It works. It works.
She can start her own writing debaucherous saloon, hopefully. That's what I'd like for her.
I love it.
Heaving bosoms.
Oh, I know. That movie, doesn't it makes you like want to watch like a some kind of like
porn?
Yeah. Yes.
Wait, so was your first time coming inspired by this boyfriend?
It kind of was, but it kind of wasn't, because I kind of been masturbating before that, but I kept it a secret, you know? I didn't want, because I went to a Catholic school, so I didn't want I was under the impression that it was like, you don't talk about that even with like a boyfriend, because he'll like think that you're slutty. So I had that was just like something that kind of coincided with me masturbating. But basically my first time that I started masturbating, which I was masturbating before I was like coming, really, I was just kind of like exploring, you know, because I went to a Catholic school and they were like, masturbation's wrong, which I thought was, in retrospect, I'm like, just don't bring it up. Just don't even, don't say, just like gloss over it. You know, it was like such a weird series of sex ed that we had, where it was like, I remember it so clear. It was like the seniors from the Catholic high school were like our sex ed teachers for some reason. And they were like, I know. And I was like asked to leave because I kept like saying uterus. I just was like saying, I'm just like goofing up. I'm like, uterus, like yelling it out. It's like, what was I doing? So I missed a lot of it, but I did not miss the part where they said masturbation's wrong. And then there was like a boy in our class who there was a rumor started about him that he was a masturbator, and people were like making fun of him. So it was like just shame, a lot of shame. But then I went to a public high school. So I think like the summer in between 8th grade and high school, I was like fuck this. Like I'm going out there in the world, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go for it, and just like exploring myself, you know. And then it took me a few times, and then I was like, well, that was kind of fun, you know. But I still had like feelings of shame about it, like subconsciously, I think. So that was nice.
Interesting to me. I feel like I'm constantly hearing stories about people with shame, but who are able to masturbate with their hand. And I'm like, what a fucking catch-22.
Totally. It's like, why would God give you hands?
Yeah. And like a really well-working clitoris.
Yeah.
You know, like I had like societal shame, but I didn't have any sexual shame really, you know? Yeah. But I just needed this toy that didn't exist, but you could do it and you were just like sad about it. Like it just feels weird all around.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's a weird like place to put women in. But I was glad that my boyfriend, that was like my first boyfriend that I was ever really sexual with. And so it was like really nice that he talked about it. I mean, he wasn't like a great boyfriend. I remember he was like, we ended up breaking up because I was like, I don't want to blow you, because I was afraid of AIDS. I was like, I'll AIDS. So I can't do it.
I was so afraid of AIDS too.
So afraid. And that's like another thing that's like on top of all the sexual shame of like hearing like AIDS horror stories in the like mid 90s, where it's like Ryan White, I think is his name. He was like a kid in Indiana he was a hemophiliac, and he was like one of the first like AIDS celebrities. But yeah, so that was my first time coming really. And I masturbated like a lot all through high school. And I never came with a boyfriend, never until I remember one time I randomly came with a guy I hooked up with who he just fucked me really hard. You know, like when you think like all of a sudden he's just like fucking you and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it like just came. I was like, what was that? What was that?
I've never had that. Still.
I have.
Have you? It's so funny. It's like these guys that are like, you know, 23 or something. That's how old I was. That was the first time I ever came like having sex with a guy. And I was not expecting it because I thought I needed like the clitoral. But he just like fucking jackhammered me. And I was like, whoa, like what happened? And I was like trying to get back to it for like years and years.
Yeah. But do you remember the first time that you were successful solo?
I do. I remember this weird feeling of being like, I need to tell somebody about this. But I was like, I wanted to share it. You know, I like kind of wanted to like tell my mom, but it was like, oh my God, I almost told her like, what, I can't let people know that I'm like a dirty masturbator.
What if she cries?
Yeah. She probably will. That's the interesting double bind of Catholicism, where it's like you want to rebel, but you still have the guilt, you know? So I was like kind of like doing it as like a fuck you. But then also being like, I got really horny, and now you have like kind of like a drop off after you come, and I'm like in the shower, like,
yeah. Did you ever talk to your mom about sexuality like after that?
No, I don't think I ever have had a conversation with her about sexuality. No, my mom she was not raised Catholic, but she married my dad when she was 20. So I don't know. I remember one time my mom and dad, I think they had like some kind of like a reawakening of their sex life. And my dad was like, well, what is massage oil and where do you think I could get it? And I was like, Dad, you're ever thinking about lube? What are you doing? Oh my God. Speaking of.
Also at CVS. It's at CVS.
I know. My dad's so funny. My parents are like very Midwestern and very like, my dad's very like a Catholic background. He's not a practicing Catholic really anymore. Maybe he is, but he's they're just kind of like, you know, easygoing Midwestern people. And they don't really talk about that type of stuff, but they've come to my shows. You know, it's like they come to my shows, they hear me talk about, you know, I'm like, coming, whatever, dick jokes. They love it. And it's like, I think one of the reasons people come to comedy shows, because they're like, oh, we would never. But the comedian talked about hand jobs last night and it was delightful.
Yeah, it's like it's a nice little excuse. Like, oh, I'm not actually interested, but I don't mind hearing about it.
Yeah.
I was asking about your mom though, because I after binging Bridgerton, posted this TikTok of, remember when Daphne and Simon get caught making out in the garden?
Oh, love it. Love it.
Love it. And it's like it would be a very big deal if anybody saw them.
Yeah.
And she kind of alludes to it to her mom. And her mom is like, that's okay. Like, sometimes when you are in love, passions happen and whatever. And I hadn't finished the rest of the season, so I posted that clip and I was like, Lady Bridgerton is the sex positive mom that we all need. And people on TikTok were pissed.
Oh my God.
Because they were like, then how come Daphne didn't know where babies came from? And how come like all of this stuff? And I'm like, okay, what I meant in that clip is like, she wasn't chastising her for the things that she had done. No, she hasn't explained in explicit detail what sex is or whatever, but I think that's because she would consider it unbecoming or like a bad mom. Like, I remember like Nanny, my grandmother, and even my mom, like, it was like not like done that you talked about that, but they were still supportive when things happened.
Yeah.
And so I was like, at least it's that part, that it's not punishing you for giving into like sexual urges. No, she didn't teach you everything. Yes, I would have liked my mom to tell me about masturbation instead of just being like, sex is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
But like, some moms don't even say that.
Yeah. I do remember my mom gave me a pamphlet that was like talking about like, it talked about like masturbating and stuff. I remember reading the pamphlet and I was like, so horny from reading the pamphlet. I'm like, this pamphlet is really like, this pamphlet's really something. You know, when you're like little, you're just like, I don't know if you did this, but I would do this when I was little. I would like, I'm like 8th grade, you know, but I would like try on like sexy outfits in my room.
Yes.
And just be like, oh, look at me. Like, I'm a sexy girl at like the soda fountain or like whatever, like Saved by the Bell, like scenario I'm putting myself in. And I remember that pamphlet like inspired me to like start like trying on sexy outfits.
Amazing.
Which is like so funny because it's like, I knew kind of like how to masturbate from the pamphlet. I think it was talking about, it was like one of those pamphlets. It's like, make sure you wash your hands, you know, nothing like, you know, get up in there and here's the G spot and everything. But it's so funny that I remember that now. It's like my reaction was like, this pamphlet made me horny. Ugh.
I love that.
Horny
My
pamphlet.
mom gave me The Care and Keeping of You, which was an American Girl book, and it didn't talk about masturbating or anything, but there was a page about shaving your armpits, and there was like a drawing of this girl shaving her armpits, and you could like see her under boob, and I was like, I love this book.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Oh God.
So thank you, moms, for our horny books and pamphlets.
Yes.
And maybe Eloise, when she starts writing feminist lit and pamphlets, would disseminate this kind of information in Bridgerton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe Lady Whistlebottom could like make her pamphlet not just gossip, it's like Cosmo as well.
I would love her storyline in the next season to be like she masturbates.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about that time period too, is like, if you're like the landed gentry, you have all these rules that you have to conform to, but like regular people, it was like, oh, you could just fuck, you know, oh, you're good.
Yeah. If you're an opera singer, you make your own money.
Fuck around.
You bang.
Yeah. It's just like, those people are kind of like the modern women of the era, even though they're like, look, people are like, oh, it's a scandal. You were talking to a ruined woman.
To a modiste.
Yeah.
Be more modest. Don't be a modiste.
Yes. I love it. That's a button.
Yeah. Katie, this has been so fun talking to you. I appreciate you telling us everything about your journey. And I'm so happy that you're feeling hot and horny again.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am too. And thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Of course. Can you tell everybody where they can find you online and anything you're promoting?
Yes, I have a comedy album. If you like stand-up comedy, it's on my website. Yeah, katiehannigan.com/album. I also have a podcast, which is very different subject matter from this. It's a lifestyle podcast, but it's called Lady Journey. So it's really great if you want to talk about recipes or, you know, just any kind of like, we also do like a little dark side of the feminine experience, you know, so it's kind of a little Sylvia Plath-ish, I would call it. And
oh no.
Yeah, but fun. Pre-oven. We're using the oven for baking. And I'm on Instagram, Katie Hannigan forever. So thank you so much.
Of course. Katie, I have to ask you this question after a sexual experience, which this has been. Did you finish?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, always. I always do.
Amazing.
If I don't finish, I'm not done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. This was awesome.
And we'll see you next time on How Come. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help, 'cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just
go get Katie's album, come to DC, support female comedy. Woo! And if you're here in the Marvel section, you know that this is where we give out free tickets for upcoming shows. So hello, if you've listened this far and you don't want to particularly buy a ticket to DC, I still have some free ones that I'd like to give out. So slide into my DMs at Remy Casimir and be like, I want to come to the show. I might only be able to give you one. Maybe I can give you two. But again, need you guys. So even if you're not coming, spread the word, and obsessed with you. Okay, so as promised, I wanted to read some other symptoms that other companions wrote in, because I was like, what? Like, I just thought that like hurting boobs and like weird periods and acne and migraine, you know, like I didn't actually even know migraines were such a big part of it until we took these polls. And we'll probably have to make a highlight so you can go back and see all these different symptoms. But Katie was talking about her loss of libido, and a lot of people were saying that they also had a change in romantic taste. She kind of alluded to being like, am I even attracted to my boyfriend? Which it might have just been like the lack of libido, but other people wrote in like their actual taste switched up on and off birth control. So one of the companions wrote, romantic taste, my best friend / sister went off birth control and realized she was a lesbian, and similar with me, I'm bi. So after getting off, having like more clarity. Also, she says, I think I was just like massively unsure about myself. Like I had girl crushes, but always had a boyfriend, hence the need for birth control. But with her, it was not like that. And now that I think about it, one of her good friends was on birth control and went off, switched and did the same, found out she was attracted to women, which is so interesting. I feel like a lot of people get on birth control before they're even active, because it's like, right, like people are scared of pregnancy. Just what if? Some people do it to regulate their cycle. And like, yeah, if you're not even clear on your sexuality yet, you might, I guess, get muddled by birth control. And I feel that for me too, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I was on it for such a long time. A lot of people said that they lost their libido, just like Katie, and ended up going off it because of that. This woman said it never really came back, and it's been 10 years. One of our companions wrote in as well saying that Dr. Drew says only 25% of people who lose their libido on birth control get it back, which is a very alarming and disheartening stat. I don't know if that is actually true. I think maybe we talk about it in the post-coitus. I forget. Robin's the data guy. But another thing that, but yeah, then we started talking about in the polls about male birth control and how everybody feels about it. And most people are like, yeah, I'm happy to like spread it around. This is exciting. Some people were like, I don't trust them to take it all the time because they're not the ones getting pregnant. A ton of people said, better to unload the gun than give a person a shield. And I was like, yes, I love that. Some people were like, oh, now my vasectomy feels irrelevant because I'd rather just take a pill. And then I was like, oh, well, would you rather have 2 surgeries or take a pill? And I know vasectomies are not entirely reversible. It's like 75% chance come back. But I wonder if you could like store your cum. I think that would be, if I had a penis, I would store my cum and get a vasectomy. and then get a reversal. Because I was like, oh, would you rather do a pill or 2 surgeries? And most people were like, pill, because 2 surgeries sounds crazy, but I have an IUD. I've had 2 you put them in, you take them out. That's 2 surgeries. And then I asked if you think vasectomy and reversal are more painful or an IUD insertion and removal. And a lot of people said IUD because we don't get medicated. They put you out for a vasectomy. The recovery time is like a week. Some people, IUD recovery is really quick. Mine was not, as you heard in this episode. So something to think about. I don't know. I'm not telling anyone to do anything with their bodies, but if I had a dick, that's what I think I would do, is a snip, snip, and then a snip, snip, and then keep my cum in a fridge for a while, if possible. We'll have to look into that. We do have a doctor coming up on an episode soon, so we'll ask him all these more intricate questions. But again, thank you guys for submitting all of your experiences. We love talking to you at How Come Podcast. If you're not already following, follow. And if you haven't rated, reviewed, and subscribed, oh my God, I haven't said this in so long. I don't ask you guys for anything. Rate, review, subscribe. We love you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week or on patreon.com/howcome. Bye.